Okay, welcome back to Orange and Blue football coverage. I tried to record this audio a few seconds ago, but my computer started making a bunch of noise in the background, so I'm gonna have to start over. Luckily, I didn't get too far deep into my spiel because then I wouldn't have re-recorded it because I hate re-recording stuff that I've already said after going on a tangent. But anyways, so apparently there's a notice in the sense of Hurricane fans acknowledge deep down seeing but don't want to acknowledge or admit that the trajectory of Florida is starting to look a little bit better after this past season, and that 2025 is looking to be a special year for the Gators. While they are coming off a 2024 regular season, I mean their season is not completely over because today's Friday and tomorrow they play Iowa State in the Pop Tart Bowl. But we're talking about the regular season here. That Florida is projecting to starting to have a good, maybe even special 2025 season that was even better than what they just had this year. You know, Florida was coming off of three consecutive losing records, two under Napier in his tenure at Florida. You know, started off bad, the blowout loss to Miami, then getting blown out 2 weeks later by Texas A&M, 1-2. Looked like he was on the hot seat. I certainly was one of those people who was saying that maybe that it's time that Florida moves on from Billy Napier and that they need to make a change probably in one of those two bye weeks that they had. But Florida administration and Scott Strickland decided to stick with Billy Napier, and it paid off. There's no other way to say it. It absolutely paid off for them. Looked a little bleak at first, you know, but then after that first bye week, they get a big win against a much needed win against UCF to shut up those fans, those obnoxious UCF fans, and then they had a heartbreaking loss to Tennessee, and then it was like the ire was right back at Napier again, and they blew out Kentucky and ending the Kentucky losing streak, which there should never be a 3 game losing streak to Kentucky at the University of Florida, but that's another story for another day. And you know, they came back against Georgia. DJ Lyra got hurt, but they were able to still make it a tough contest. And then Scott Strickland publicly announced his support for Billy Napier coming back for 2025, and then they get blown out against Texas because they had so many injuries on both sides of the ball, including at the quarterback position because they had Aiden Warner starting instead of DJ, who got hurt against Georgia the previous week, and then DJ came back for LSU, and they got that big victory against LSU, and then they got their biggest win under Napier against Ole Miss, and they were finished it off with finally getting a winning record and blowing out Florida State, who was god awful this past year, and then they were able to put the cherry on top with their first bowl win under Billy Napier inside the Sunset State against Tulane. And in the process of this, Florida's recruiting skyrocketed. They landed Tremel Jones, Daniel Pierre Louis, and then Byron Lewis came. And then here came Jaden Woods, who flipped from Penn State. And then Hilton Stubbs flipped from Miami. And, just all these good players just started coming into Florida's recruiting class. Tavares Dice flipping from Auburn. And later on, then on signing day, early signing day, that is, Lagonza Hayward flipping from Tennessee to Florida, and then recently Dallas Wilson has not only flipped to Florida but has signed, and then after getting out of his letter of intent with Oregon, and is now playing for UF and planning to enroll early for this upcoming spring. So all in all, it's looking like it's the changing of the guard is finally turning in favor of the Florida Gators. And while I think 2025 has the capability of being special with, all the good players that are returning to Florida this season and the recruiting class they're bringing in, and DJ Lagway having a second year as a starting quarterback, Florida fans are actually now starting to buy into the hype, and it seems like Hurricane fans, whether they want to admit it or not, they're starting to see that maybe there is a changing of the guard because David Waters, who is a Gators pundit for Gators Breakdown, posted a tweet by on reposted a tweet by On Three, who had their own who has their own evaluation site, their own evaluation system like 247 Sports, and according to On Three, Florida signed 4 of the top 10 recruits to come out of the state of Florida for this current cycle. Hilton Stubbs was one. Vernell Brown and Ben Hanks Jr. and Dallas Wilson were the 4 guys. And apparently, Hurricane fans did not like that because Hurricane fans are now just tweeting up a storm saying that, well, now they're loving Billy Napier because he finally gave them a winning record and a bowl win, and then he's finally being went from being incompetent to mediocre, and that's still, but they're still forgetting about the 41-7 beatdown that we gave them on August 31st in the swamp. Okay, Hurricane fans, my question is, where did that 41-17 victory get you? Because you didn't make the ACC title game and you didn't make the playoffs. You're going to be playing in Iowa State in the Pop-Tart Bowl, and that's the first team that you're playing this year that's ranked in the top 25. That's right. All 10 of victories that the Hurricanes got this year came against non-top 25 opponents. There was not a single team they played in the regular season that was ranked in the top 25 that they beat or lost to. So what did that 41-17 win get you? It didn't get you anywhere. Yeah, you won a few more games than you do on a normal basis, because normally Hurricane teams win 7 or 8 wins a year. This year they won a couple more than the average, but it got you nowhere. Florida, and that Florida team that you beat in August was not the Florida team you saw at the end of the year. And I'm not just talking about DJ Lagway starting the quarterback. I'm talking about they played better in the trenches. The run game was better. The receivers were playing better. The defense was playing better. It was not the same Florida team that you played in August. It was completely night and day. And Florida ended the year on a better note than you did by winning their final 4 games. You, on the other hand, lost not once but twice to unranked opponents while you were ranked in the top 10. And your head coach, Mario Cristobal, still has less signature wins in his time at Miami than Billy Napier did. Remember, the first season for Mario Cristobal was in 2022 at Miami, and the first season for Billy Napier at Florida was at 2022. So they've been at their programs for the exact same amount of time. Maybe one was hired about a week or so earlier than the other one, but they've gotten pretty much the same amount of time. And Bill Napier, even with his struggles, still has more signature wins under his belt than Mario does. And what you Hurricane fans are not realizing is that this was your best year to make a postseason run and compete for a national title, because Cam Ward's not coming back next year. This is his final year of eligibility. Cam Ward's not coming back. Damian Martinez is not coming back. Xavier Restrepo's not coming back. Jacoby George is not coming back. One of your playmaking tight ends is not coming back. You had some defensive players that are heading into the draft this year or entering the transfer portal, and you're bringing back the same defensive coordinator when you guys were literally saying that he needs to be fired at the end of the year. You're bringing him back. There's a good chance you're going to have a good drop off in 2025. Now, I don't think you're going to drop off like the way Florida State did this year, but there's a good chance you're going to be up for a major letdown next season. While Florida, on the other hand, they're looking up. You're looking mostly on a trajectory way back down. And if you go back to October 26th of this year, which was the day Florida State lost to Miami, Mario Cristobal said in his post-game press conference that recruits can now see the trajectory of the Miami program compared to the other programs in the state. And he was talking about, he didn't name them specifically, but he was talking about Florida and Florida State. And the ironic thing is that he's right. Recruits now do see the trajectory, because now Florida, per multiple recruiting sites, is above Miami in terms of recruiting class. I'm going to play that clip for you right now.
All recruits, in-state, out-of-state, can now clearly see the trajectory of this program versus the trajectory of the other programs.
Okay, so you just heard Mario Cristobal, not Billy Napier, Mario Cristobal talking about the trajectory that the recruits see at Miami compared to the other programs. Well, that didn't age too well, because soon after, Mario Cristobal would lose to 2 unranked teams while being in the top 10, while Florida, on the other hand, would win their final 4 games strong, impressively, decisively, dominating their games against Tulane and Florida State, and beating a couple of top 25 opponents in LSU and Ole Miss. Mario Cristobal has only 1 victory against a top 25 opponent in his entire time at Miami. In 3 years, he has half the amount of top 25 wins as Florida did in 2024. And mind you, I've ripped Billy Napier to shreds, but I'm gonna defend him when I think he needs defending, and I think he needs to be defended here. I think Billy Napier, for the most part, has done more with less than Mario Cristobal has. Because Miami fans have been bragging about recruiting under Mario Cristobal for years now. Where's that gotten him? It got him to a 5-7 record, missing a bowl game. It got him to a disappointing 7-6 record, where you started off 4-0, but then you ended losing 6 of your final 9 games. And then this past year, you started off 10-0 and lost 2 of your last 3. So finishing strong is not a Mario Cristobal trait. That's what we were trying to tell you when he was the head coach at Oregon. Yeah, he won a couple of Pac-12 titles and he had some good seasons with the Oregon Ducks, but when it counted the most, he did not win the games that was necessary for Oregon to compete for a national title. Now with Billy Napier, that remains to be seen if he can win games to get Florida into the college football playoffs. He hasn't done it yet. We'll see. 2025, like I said, is shaping up to be a pretty good year. But Miami Hurricane fans should not be acting as if, Mario Cristobal is doing a great job, because for the most part, he's disappointed or underachieved. There's no reason why he should have lost to Georgia Tech and Syracuse, losing to Georgia Tech again. Lost to Georgia Tech twice in a row, and each time he loses to Georgia Tech, Miami's season falls off. And then you come up with a big disappointer against Syracuse. And then with the game on the line, 4th and goal inside the 10-yard line, you opt to kick a field goal when you needed a touchdown to tie the game. Or, better yet, if you at the very least would have scored the touchdown to make it 42-41, went for 2 and failed and lost the game, I think people would have respected that more than you kicking a field goal. You waved the white flag. You had an opportunity to win the game right then and there. But you kicked the field goal and went conservative, betting on your defense to give you a stop when your defense didn't give you a stop the entire game. Mario Cristobal, while record-wise maybe a little bit better than Billy Napier, I mean, he only has 3 more victories than Billy Napier does. But if you look at Miami's schedule, a lot of the victories have come against Florida A&M, Ball State, non-Power 5 opponents, Bethune-Cookman a couple of times. That's really the only difference. Billy Napier has had a way tougher schedule than Mario Cristobal has, not just conference-wise, but even out of conference-wise. Florida played 11 Power 4 opponents this season. Mario Cristobal only played, 9? The 8 conference opponents and Florida. So at some point, Hurricane fans, you're going to start realizing that Mario Cristobal may not be the savior that you guys thought he was. And you know what? It's going to be a hard pill for you to swallow. But he has underachieved during his entire time at Miami, and until proven otherwise, he's going to be known as a choker. And rightfully so. So you guys can bring up 41-17 all you want. That's your biggest victory since probably the 2017 season, beating Florida, a Florida team that wasn't even good at the time that you played them, but got better as the season went along. Your team, however, didn't get better as the season went along. Your defense deteriorated. Your defense got worse as the season got along, and you had to rely on Cam Ward. If not for Cam Ward, you probably would have been an average. You probably would have been around Florida's record. Cam Ward alone granted you 2 or 3 victories that you probably didn't deserve. So you Hurricane fans can talk about 41-17 all you want. It got you nowhere. Where did it get you? It didn't get you an ACC championship appearance. It didn't get you a college football playoff appearance. And not only did it not get you a college football playoff appearance, you even had the audacity to say you got screwed out of the college football playoff the way FSU did, which is complete hogwash. FSU was a 13-0 conference champion that was let off the hook. You didn't even make it to the conference title game. So y'all can talk about 41-17 all you want, but deep down it's just because you know that this was the best season you had of making a run for the college football playoffs, and you failed. And it's a bittersweet realization for you, because you now see that Florida has a special quarterback, and that's putting a ton of talent around him, both in the skill positions on offense, and they're bringing back a bunch of stars on the offensive line, and a lot of defensive playmakers are coming back to the team too. So be ready for 2025, Hurricane fans. It's going. I can't wait for when Florida visits you in September. I'm going to be at that game.